got your email that you wanted to come and talk to me, that you were having some roommate issues, and you weren't really specific, so I just wanted to kind of set up this meeting to talk to you a little bit further and see kind of how things are going, where you're at with it, and how you're feeling about the situation. So do you mind kind of just like telling me kind of the big picture kind of things about the situation?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's nothing terrible going on. We're not fighting or anything, but it's just it's a bit of an uncomfortable situation, or I don't know, just a different situation.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just it's a new situation for me. I'm not really used to this kind of living arrangement.
Okay. So when you say this kind of living arrangement, what do you mean by that exactly?
I should just be blunt. I mean that I'm Christian. I'm from a very Christian family, very Christian town. I mean, it's a small town in the south, and so I haven't really been exposed to much. All my friends were Christian, and my roommate right now, she's a new roommate. It was a random roommate after sophomore year, and she's a practicing Muslim.
Okay. All right. So before you said that you were kind of feeling uncomfortable about your situation. Is she doing things that are making you feel uncomfortable?
Yeah. I mean, like it's not like she's being mean or anything. It's just some of the things she does for her religion, some of the ways she practices Islam. I don't really know what to do when she's doing certain things. Like I don't know how to act around her sometimes.
Okay. So it sounds like a lot of kind of the rituals that she's doing in the room are kind of making you feel very uncomfortable and not really sure how to like act around her.
Yeah, exactly. Like for example, she prays 5 times a day, and sometimes we're off at class or whatever, we're not together, but like on the weekends or there are a couple of days where we both only have classes in the morning, so we're both in the room in the afternoon, and like we'll just be in the room and I'll be studying or something, and she'll all of a sudden get down on the ground and pray.
Okay.
And then like she's just laying in the middle of my floor, and should I be quiet? Should I talk to her or should I not talk to her? I feel like sometimes I have to step around her depending on where in the room she is, and it's just kind of a weird situation sometimes.
Okay. So, have you tried talking to her about how kind of you're feeling about the situation?
Not really, no.
Okay.
Not about praying.
Okay. Have you talked to her about any of the other kind of things that are making you feel uncomfortable? Or?
A little bit. So she doesn't drink at all.
Okay.
And alcohol is just not a part of her life.
Mm-hmm.
And I do sometimes. And so in the beginning of the semester, I would ask like, hey, do you mind if some friends come over? Before we would party or something, and we drink a little. And whenever my friends would come over, it would be okay. But as soon as like alcohol came out, she just wouldn't really say anything, and she just kind of leaves the room.
Okay.
And so I kind of just stopped asking, like, is it okay if friends come over? And so now I just don't have friends come over.
Okay.
Instead, I'll go to other people's rooms and just not even make that situation occur if I can help it.
Okay. So it sounds like you're kind of feeling a little bit put out by the situation.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like you have to go to other people's rooms, you can't have friends over, and then when she's praying, you have to step around her. And,
yeah. Put out's a good word, and I don't mean to be mean. I know she's just doing her, she's practicing her religion, but it is kind of inconvenient sometimes.
Okay.
That, like you were saying, stepping around her, or I feel like I can't have friends over. I have to go to other people's rooms.
Okay. So how kind of have you in the past dealt with situations where maybe you feel kind of uncomfortable in situations and then kind kind of get past that?
Honestly, I haven't really, this is the first time I'm living with someone, or even, I mean, honestly, this is the first time I'm friends with someone who practices a different religion. I mean, I've had friends who aren't as strongly Christian as maybe my family is, but never really something this different. So it's pretty new, it's a new thing for me.
Okay. So you say that it's kind of new to you, and you come from a town that's not very diverse necessarily, as our campus is. So how, like, do you think, how has it made you feel kind of in the past if people have kind of questioned your religion or kind of your beliefs and the different rituals that you practice?
Yeah. I guess there have been a couple of times where people who weren't, either who weren't Christian or who weren't, like, steadfast Christian, kind of, like, roll their eyes metaphorically at some of the things that I would say, or some of the things my family would do, some of the ways my family would act. And when people, I feel almost like unappreciated, because people aren't giving it a chance. If I say something like, well, it's in God's hands, it's out of my control, people kind of, I've experienced it where people would just roll their eyes and kind of like toss what I'm saying off lightly, but it's something that's really important to me that they're just not taking seriously at all.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. So from that, have there been any situations where kind of in your interactions with your roommate, she's kind of had some of those same actions as what you've experienced in the past?
Actually, yeah. There have been a couple of times, and not often, because I think by this point we've realized we're both steadfast in our own religion, so we stray away from certain topics now. But in the beginning, if I would make a comment like that, well, it's in God's hands, it's out of my hands, or other comments like that she just saw differently. I feel like she kind of, maybe not literally rolling her eyes, but kind of that attitude of like, that's not true.
Okay. And kind of conversely, have you ever found yourself in your interactions with your roommate kind of doing those things?
Sometimes, like, yeah, if she says something, that's not what I believe. That's push it away.
Yeah.
Or like when she prays, just an inconvenience. If they're in the middle of the room and she's praying, it's kind of again. Which I feel terrible thinking like that, but sometimes it's just, it's just flat out inconvenient.
Well, first, you shouldn't have to feel terrible if that's the way you're thinking. It's natural to have feelings like that, especially if you're feeling uncomfortable in your own space, kind of have those feelings where, you feel like you can't really be your own, kind of who you are, and kind of live in your space fully. So it is natural to have those feelings. But now, it's interesting, you were saying, that part of the reason why you feel uncomfortable is because, sometimes you feel like she's judging you, and sometimes maybe not literally, but you kind of feel like, she's just like, she's not right in what she kind of believes, because it's not necessarily what she believes. So do you maybe think she might feel the same way? Do you think maybe she kind of has feelings of being uncomfortable?
Yes, she might. I haven't really thought of that. I don't do anything in the room, like pray or something. But I have a cross hanging above my bed.
Okay.
Before I go to bed at night, I kneel and pray. But I've never really thought about what she thinks of those actions. I haven't thought of it.
Okay. So, how would you say your communication is with your roommate?
I think it was okay at the beginning. But as we realized that we didn't really see eye to eye on a lot of things, whether that's being friends with someone of the opposite sex, or like having guy friends or dating a boy before marriage, or, I mean, she has male friends too, but I think it's just very different with her, for how well you can get to know, a boy who you're not committed to, or, so things like that, we've learned we see differently, so we don't really talk about that anymore, you know, with my friends, you know, we'll like talk about the cute guy class or whatever, you know, we'll talk about certain topics that I don't feel like I can talk to my roommate about. And so I feel like in the beginning, maybe we were kind of testing the waters. And what can we talk about? Oh, that's kind of not a good thing to talk about. Maybe I won't mention it anymore. And so since we've learned what doesn't seem to work, we've kind of, there are only certain things that we will talk about, and other things we're just like, don't even talk about.
Okay. So you've mentioned a lot of concerns and the different things that are making you feel uncomfortable and kind of have given me a full picture of the situation. So thank you for that. That makes me feel a lot more tuned in on what's happening. So I have another question. Would you kind of be open to maybe trying to reach out to her a little bit more and kind of opening up those lines of communication and maybe kind of talking to her about the feelings of being uncomfortable?
If it means we could kind of like get over this weirdness and maybe be more comfortable with each other, then yeah, I would consider talking to her.
Okay. Well, since you're saying that you would feel, apt to kind of talk to her and kind of get more into that kind of roommate communication, what do you think are some ways that you could go about kind of jump-starting that relationship again and kind of being more open about your feelings with the whole situation?
I feel like it's going to be an awkward conversation.
Okay.
So I think that's why I haven't been talking to her about it. I've been shying away from it because saying to her like, hey, when you pray, can you not do it right in the middle of the room? I don't want to be disrespectful. So I'm afraid it's just going to be really awkward. And then what if that worsens the situation?
Okay. So in the past, have you had kind of situations like that where you've tried to talk to people about things that kind of are uncomfortable and it has gotten awkward?
I guess so. Yeah, like, I don't know. Like with friends, I guess, you know, if there was one friend of mine who kind of made snide comments sometimes, you know, kind of like undercutting what you had to say. I can't even think of a concrete example, but if I would say something really great that happened that day, she kind of had like a cutting comment that kind of made it less great, if that makes sense. And so eventually it's starting to get kind of hurtful, you know, that she kept saying such comments. So I did actually say to her one, and it was awkward, but I said to her, hey, I really don't appreciate when you say comments like that. You know, it seems inconsiderate. You know, it hurts me. I know you don't mean it to hurt me, but sometimes it does. That was kind of an awkward conversation.
And then kind of from that, how moving forward did your friendship kind of go?
At first, she kind of got mad. She's like, "What are you talking about? I don't do that. She said I was being too sensitive." And so at first, the immediate, you know, moments were kind of worse. But we kept talking about it, and I said to her, like, I know maybe I am being sensitive. I don't know if other of our friends are feeling like this, but it's how I'm feeling, and I would just appreciate it if you could be mindful of that. And she did eventually, you know, right there, she just kind of whatever and walked off. But I noticed that in the following days, weeks, months, there were fewer and fewer of those comments.
Okay. So in that situation, it sounds like she became receptive of the different feelings that you were having because you were so open with her and kind of expressed how you were feeling about it.
Yeah, like if I had never talked to her, it could have gotten worse and worse. Then she might have ended up saying something really hurtful or truly awful.
Okay, so kind of going with that, do you think maybe if you do try to communicate with your roommate how you're feeling, do you think maybe it might be awkward at first, but if you are fully open and honest with everything and kind of respectful of each other, that maybe it'll get past that awkwardness and maybe come to a solution.
Yeah, I guess I haven't thought about how, that situation with my other friend was kind of similar to this. Like but I guess, yeah, that could work. It would be awkward in the moment and it's a tough conversation to have, but maybe it would help in the long run.
Yeah, and kind of going back a little bit, you said that, had you let that other situation go, it could have potentially gotten worse.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe that could happen here?
I guess it could. I mean, if we stop, if the number of topics we don't talk about keeps growing, eventually we're not going to be talking at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely could be a possibility.
Yeah.
So kind of going from there, what are some things that you think you could kind of use as starters to the conversation? Just, very basic, kind of like, just like an intro to your conversation.
Yeah. Gosh. I don't know. Maybe if I asked her why she does certain things, that could be a good way to ease into what can we change her again. Like asking her, like, why do practicing Muslims pray 5 times a day? Can you tell me why you get on the ground? Can you help me understand? Maybe that could then just kind of open up the conversation.
Yeah, and I definitely think that is a good way to start, because it shows that you're interested in kind of what she's doing in her different practices, and kind of makes kind of that trust come back, that you are genuinely interested and you're trying to learn about what she's doing to kind of make the situation less uncomfortable for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that might be a good way to kind of make her receptive kind of to how you're feeling, and kind of then open it up to where maybe she can start asking you kind of the different practices that you have, if maybe she's feeling uncomfortable, to kind of learn the history on your side.
Yeah.
And maybe open that kind of more up for conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, because then even if, we don't agree with praying, eating, or drinking, those are kind of surface beliefs, but even if we don't agree with kind of the underlying things, at least we can learn about them without, learning about her religion, learning about Islam isn't necessarily me believing it.
Yeah.
That's not the same thing.
No, and it's interesting that you bring that up, because just because you are learning something doesn't mean you have to believe in it.
Yeah.
It just kind of educates you kind of on the different situation, and maybe might make you a little more receptive to kind of what's happening.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to believe what she's believing, but it might help you become more open-minded to the situation.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah. I can still hang on to my Christian values, but just let her tell me about her Muslim values.
Exactly. Like you could think of it as like a class, a
Religion
professor.
101.
Yeah, there you go. It could be like a Religion 101 class where, your professor's telling you something and you don't necessarily have to believe it, but it's just kind of something that you're learning.
Yeah. Yeah. I could do that.
Okay.
I guess I could do that.
Yeah, and I think that would be a good first step to kind of get that communication going.
Yeah.
And then that could open up further down the line to kind of tackling the issues and maybe making the situation less uncomfortable, and kind of strengthening the bond that you two have.
Yeah. I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Strengthening bond.
Exactly. Who doesn't like strong bonds between friends?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's good. I think that kind of gives you kind of a starting point to go off of, and will kind of, allow you that kind of starter space to kind of start tackling the situation, and hopefully making you feel a little less kind of uncomfortable
Yeah.
as the situation progresses. And of course, you reached out to me, and I'm willing in the future to meet with you again and kind of check up and see how the situation's going.
Yeah. I think that'd be good.
Yeah, and of course, this is just step one. To build that relationship, there will be more steps. And, I'm here as a resource to kind of help you along the way, to kind of come up with more steps as you go along.
Okay. That's reassuring.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you came and met with me.
Oh, thanks for talking to me. And
No, of course.
this is helpful. I think I didn't really see that I could learn about her beliefs. I mean, I saw it as her beliefs are in my way, but I never really thought of it as, well, let's learn about why she's doing what she's doing.
Yeah, and I think that's a good first step of how to look at this